In the misty swamps of colonial Virginia, where cypress trees bend over dark waters and the wind seems to whisper secrets through the pines, a ghost is said to walk. She does not speak. She does not scream. She only watches. Her name is Grace Sherwood, though some call her something far older and darker: the Witch of Pungo. Grace White was born in 1660, in a time when Virginia was little more than mud paths, tobacco fields, and superstition. It was a land ruled by silence, where fear traveled faster than facts, and where anything unknown was called unholy. At 20 years old, Grace married James Sherwood, a poor but hard-working farmer in the Pungo area. Together, they toiled the soil and raised 3 sons. Life was not easy, but they survived. Together. Then, in 1701, tragedy struck. James died suddenly, leaving Grace a widow, but not a helpless one. Unlike many women of her time, she didn't lose everything. In fact, she gained something rare. She inherited all 145 acres of their land. That alone was enough to raise eyebrows. A woman owning land? That was too rare, too bold. But Grace didn't just survive, she thrived. She was a healer, a midwife, and an herbalist. She walked barefoot through the woods, collecting roots and flowers, turning nature into medicine. Some called her a wise woman. Others whispered another word: witch. She was beautiful, and unlike many, she aged with a strange grace. Some even said she looked younger each year. The married men noticed. So did their wives. But Grace never flirted, never strayed, never gave reason for suspicion. Still, the town talked. Because when you're different, when you're powerful without permission, they don't need a reason to fear you. They'll make one. It started with whispers. Then came the accusations. In 1697, a neighbor accused her of cursing his bull. The animal had wasted away without reason. A year later, another farmer claimed she had hexed his pigs. Then his cotton crop failed. It seemed that any misfortune could be blamed on Grace. The stories grew darker. A woman swore she saw Grace transform into a giant black cat. She claimed the cat slashed her across the face and then vanished through a keyhole. That tale spread like wildfire. By the time it reached the courthouse, it was soaked in fear. Unlike the hysteria in Salem, the Virginia judges were more skeptical. They dismissed the charges. But justice, it seemed, was never free. Grace and her husband were still forced to pay court fees. The rumors didn't end. They only shifted in shape. Children dared each other to walk past her home. Women clutched their crosses tighter when she passed by. She became something more than a person. She became a symbol. Not of evil, but of fear. The fear of a woman who lived alone, owned land, healed the sick, and feared no man. That, in colonial Virginia, was dangerous enough. In 1705, 2 years after her husband's death, a spark lit the fire once more. Elizabeth Hill, a neighbor, accused Grace of causing her miscarriage after a physical fight. This wasn't magic, it was a brawl. But the charge stuck. Grace refused to appear in court. She knew what would happen. Still, she was arrested. 2 juries of women were summoned to examine her. More than half admitted they had personal issues with Grace. Many claimed they were victims of her spells. No clergy were involved. This wasn't a matter of religion. It was a matter of belief and jealousy. They searched her body for witch marks, blemishes, birthmarks, anything unusual. They found 4. That was enough. But they wanted more. Execution for witchcraft was illegal in Virginia by then. But old traditions die hard. So they turned to ducking, an ancient test of guilt. On July 10, 1706, Grace Sherwood was taken to the Lynnhaven River. Her hands were bound, her legs were weighted. A 13-pound Bible was tied around her neck. As the boat drifted to the center of the river, she turned to the crowd and shouted, "Before this day be through, you'll all get a worse ducking than I." And with that, she was dropped into the water. If she floated, she was guilty. If she sank, she was innocent, but dead. Either way, she would suffer. Some say she was under for 30 seconds. Others say more than a minute. But when she surfaced, alive, it was all the proof they needed. Grace Sherwood was declared guilty and thrown in jail. And then, silence. From 1706 to 1714, there are no official records of what happened to Grace. 8 years vanished from history. The prison logs are gone, perhaps burned, perhaps buried. What happened behind those stone walls, no one knows. But when she was finally released in 1714, she did not crawl out broken. She paid her back taxes. With help from Lieutenant Governor Alexander Spotswood, she reclaimed her land. She never remarried. She lived alone. She raised herbs and animals. And from that point on, the town left her largely in peace. But peace is not forgiveness. She died in 1740, at around 80 years old. Her sons laid her body near the fireplace, as was custom. Then a gust of wind swept through the room. Her body, they said, lifted, drifted up the chimney. All that remained was a cloven hoofprint burned into the stone floor. The devil, some whispered, had come to collect her. After her death, storms often gathered over Witch Duck Bay. Black cats, dozens of them, began appearing near her land. The townspeople, afraid, killed them. In 1793, the town was hit with a devastating rat infestation. No one connected the dots, or maybe they simply didn't want to. Her house was burned multiple times by vandals. Only the chimney remained until it too was bulldozed in 2002. In 2006, Virginia's governor officially pardoned Grace Sherwood. Her name was cleared, 3 centuries too late. In 2007, a bronze statue was unveiled, Grace holding a basket of herbs. A raccoon, her familiar perhaps, sits at her feet. Some say the rosemary that grows wild across Virginia today came from a sprig she carried from England, hidden inside an eggshell. Today, the land she once walked is part of the Back Bay National Wildlife Refuge. But locals say that every July a strange light floats above Witch Duck Bay. No one can explain it. They call it Grace. Grace Sherwood, healer, widow, witch, legend. The Witch of Pungo.